Hi guys, hi everyone. I'm so excited. It's on a Friday, and you know what that means? At 2 o'clock we have a new video here on Muthoni's mission. My name is Muthoni Mukiri. I am a life coach and I am a teacher about emotional and mental wellness, and most things I talk about my YouTube channel are things I've struggled with, my challenges in regards to life and how I conquer them or how I deal with them. So welcome, and if you're new, we love visitors. Feel at home and subscribe so you can be part of this wonderful, amazing family. If you're a native of Muthoni's mission, welcome back. I've missed you and I hope you're doing well. So I'm gonna be talking about reparenting yourself. Guys, reparenting yourself is a very deep and sensitive topic, because you're reparenting yourself because you went through some sort of trauma or you're hurting from something. And when I was thinking about this topic this morning, I was thinking, I was just getting emotional, and I was just saying, I just hope I will not start getting emotional when I'm recording this video, because this topic is so dear to me. And you guys know that. And it's also in response. There's a video I did about healing your inner child. It has a lot of feedback. I get a lot of feedback from that. Funny enough, it doesn't have a lot of views, but it gets people who watch that video always have something to tell me about it, or about what happened, because I also have an assignment about what you need to do to heal your inner child in that video. So when you're done with this video, when you're done with this video, please make sure you watch that video, because I have an exercise for you guys. So a lot of questions are usually about, I went through this as a child, my parents put me through this, or this and this happened, I am so hurt, I am so angry, I keep crying. It's called childhood trauma. You guys, it's a mess. And today I want to talk about reparenting. But even as I talk about reparenting, I want to talk about briefly about childhood trauma, what exactly it is, to get to why you need to reparent yourself. Reparenting yourself is giving yourself what you feel you missed in your childhood, is being there for the wounded child, is becoming your own parent. It's giving, you know how sometimes when you go through childhood trauma, which I will talk about briefly, you feel like, I wanted this from my parents, I needed them to show me love, I needed them to be there for me, I needed them to do this. Now those things are the things you do to yourself. That is what is called reparenting yourself. So in this video, I will talk about what exactly I'm talking about in terms of childhood trauma, why you need to reparent yourself, why those things probably happened to you, and exercises and things I do to reparent myself, because it's not a one-time thing. It's something you have to keep doing, and why it's worth it, and also how to know you need to reparent yourself. Sometimes you might not really know you went through trauma, but you have things happening to you and you wonder why. So I will talk about how to know you need to reparent yourself, or to heal that wounded inner child. So let me start by childhood trauma. So in every one of us, there is a baby. There is that child inside. My name is Muthoni. So there is a young Muthoni inside. The little girl, there is that. Everybody has the little girl in them, or the little man in them, the little boy in them. So, and growing up, you might have experienced a bit of trauma. When we think about childhood trauma, we automatically jump to sexual experiences, to a tsunami, to an earthquake, to a bomb blast. Not necessarily. You can go through childhood trauma by simple things like neglect. I went through childhood trauma because I went through bullying. I was taken to boarding school. I felt abandoned to some extent. It can be bullying. It can be watching your loved one suffer in pain, watching your mother or somebody get physically abused, going through verbal abuse as a child. It can be very little things. It can be things that you never thought can give you trauma. So if you went through one of those things, it can cause you trauma. Another thing, not every child goes through trauma. That's why you can find that there can be 5 siblings. They all go through the same experience of an abusive father, but only one is affected, or 2 is affected. So maybe I'm one of those affected, because it happened, and there are things you cannot just run away from. You just have to work towards healing that child. And why it affects a child: when a child is born, their mind is like blank. And the subconscious mind, there's the conscious mind where you are aware of what you're doing. You went to school, you know how to be a doctor, you know how to treat patients. That's the conscious. The subconscious is habits that that stick with you, that you learn, that you don't even know, you didn't even realize you have these habits. Like you just do them, they just flow with your life. So the subconscious mind is formed in our childhood. In our childhood is where we learn what relationships look like, what love looks like, what boundaries look like, what support looks like. That is where we learn those things. A child is born with a blank conscious, and then now the subconscious is formed like that. So most of our habits and emotional stuff we learn through from our childhood, like how to process emotions. A lot of habits we learn from that. So I want to talk about our parents' role. Our parents' role is to teach us, is to make us be heard, be seen, is to teach us discipline, is to love us, is to just bring us up as whole beings. Now, most of our parents operate from unconscious awareness. Like they were wounded children. They grew up with the heart. They brought up children, and also, it goes on and on and on unless you cut the trauma. So most of them did not know even they went through childhood trauma. But the things they went through as children, they pass it on to their children, right? So your parent can only parent you from their level of awareness. So when I talk about our parents, I'm talking about it because this is not an episode where we are here to bash anybody's parent, anybody's guardian. Because, like, for example, myself, I love my parents dearly. I do. I've even done a video here with my mom, and they did the best they could. They gave me a good life, but in the process, I went through trauma. I went through a lot of bullying in that boarding school, and it really affected me a lot. So you might think that going to that parent and telling them you did this to me, this and this, like it will make the situation better, but acknowledging might be one step, but you have to do things to unlearn the things you learned about that time, to undo the trauma, to make it better. You have to do exercises. You have to do things. Understand? Your parents did the best they could with what they knew, with the information they knew. And if you're here, you already have grown children. Now you're not looking at yourself as a parent. You're looking at yourself as a child who got wounded. If you're here and you have grown children, you need to also reparent yourself, so that you can also be able to give those children what they need at the level where they are at. Whether they're teenagers, they're in their 30s, whatever. You need to reparent yourself. Most of our parents, especially if you're in your early 30s, late 20s, most of our parents went through a lot as children, a lot. And if you're a parent, if you're a grown-up right now, please do the reparenting exercises. Don't start beating yourself like I should have. Time has already passed. Heal that inner child so you can be able to give your children what they need at this point. All right. So reparenting is becoming your own parent. This is the number one way of healing the childhood trauma. You know that sad child who keeps crying, who is all over the place? You know that child? That's a child who needs reparenting. Before I talk about reparenting is a solution to childhood trauma. It's the number one solution, you guys, to going back and loving that girl. I want to talk about how to know you went through childhood trauma and how to know you need to reparent yourself. I'm with my laptop here, you guys, so sometimes I need to go back and look at a few things. I can't keep everything in my head, and also sometimes I don't want to miss things that are important. So yeah. So the number one thing to know you need to reparent yourself is if you're very harsh to yourself and very self-critical. When you mess up, when something goes against what you want, when something goes the way you didn't want it to, you become so mad at yourself. You hate yourself. You hate living. You want to take away your life. You are so, it means your subconscious learned that you really have to be perfect. You know how we were brought up? Like my dad is the one for tough love. Like you have to really perform in school and all that. And if you're not, he will really can make your life bad. Like really, he can really be tough on you. And sometimes that what that brought to me is I was so self-critical. I had to be right all the time. So when I mess up even as an adult, I found myself being so mad at me, crying, feeling miserable, feeling I'm a loser. So if you feel that, you need to reparent yourself. To some extent, you went through some sort of trauma growing up. Number 2 is not having boundaries and allowing and giving your soul to everybody, allowing yourself to go through unhealthy things to please other people, and giving so much of yourself. Thinking, this is very important. This also affects a lot our our relationships, our intimate relationships with our significant other, right? So, where you feel you have to do something to be loved, where you feel you go out of your way so much for other people, you like what I talk about, you set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. You feel you have to give so much for somebody to love you in return. Yeah, if you feel like you sacrifice so much, and then at the end of the day you start feeling so bad about yourself, you start hating the other person you did the favor for, you start blocking them, you start feeling like they took advantage of you. But no, they maybe just asked for a favor and you were out here willing to just give it freely, and then you realize you're hurting yourself. So if you don't have boundaries, if you feel you have to give so much to receive love is usually guys, it's actually free. It is. So if you feel you have to give so much, if you feel like, how we were brought up, you have to really be number 1 in school, you have to really perform when it comes to athletics, to what you have when you go to visiting visitors, you have to always be disciplined. Like you have to do, if you don't do those things, you feel like you're not loved enough. If you're not number 1 in school, you felt like you're not loved, you have to be to get that love. You grow up with that subconscious awareness, and it grows with you in your adulthood, where you think you have to do so much for people so they can accept you and love you. So if you go through that, you need to heal that inner child. This one affected me so much. Do you have trouble expressing yourself or raising a point or even regulating your emotions? This is what used to happen to me. If I'm in a board meeting, or maybe I'm in a meeting and I want to say something, I want to raise a point, or it's my turn to speak, I used to have a lot of anxiety, a lot of butterflies. I have sweaty palms. I'm just so scared. Maybe they might not like me. They might not like my point. Maybe I'm just talking nonsense. Maybe I'm scared of shabbing and those things. I used to be crazy. And some of these meetings were mine. Like, people are looking forward to meeting me and they adore me so much, but I am so nervous to even speak. Because you are not allowed to be heard as a child. You are just there to be seen. You don't know how to communicate your point. You're also scared because maybe most of the things you said as a child were not right. Maybe unasema kitu, slap kwa uso. You just say something, they slap you across their face. They tell you you're talking nonsense as a child. One thing parents did not understand, and one thing we need to understand, and we need to keep it in our heads as we bring up our children, is that we think they don't understand because they're children, but they're just like you, but they're just little. They are little humans who have every emotion you have, every feeling you have. Treat them like small adults. Treat them like humans. They're just little humans. You have to put diapers on them and also be able to take care of them, their every need, but they have every emotion you have. So if you find yourself being so scared to even say your name in front of a crowd, it's not normal. It is not normal, you guys. You went through some sort of trauma. At some point you were suppressed. Your remarks or your opinions were not important. That is what happens, especially in the African community. Children are only to be seen, not to be heard. That is what that is what happened to us. But now that we are breaking these things, we are cutting these curses and we are cutting these trends. We are learning to give children an opportunity to express themselves, to treat them as little humans, not as people who don't have emotions, not as people who don't see what is happening. They see, the children see, they see. That's why sometimes you see children can be close to one person and not close to the other because of things you have done to them over time. Moving on, another thing when it's hard to treat yourself with love and compassion. It's so hard to love yourself. It's so hard to be nice to yourself. It's so hard to tell yourself, Muthoni, it's okay. This was a bad day. Tomorrow is another day to be better. Muthoni, you know what? This might has gone south, but you know yourself. You know your potential. More than you know you can do better. You know how being there for yourself, being your own best friend and treating yourself with love. If you cannot be able to give yourself that, you need to reparent yourself. Now, if you're going through those things, if you go through series of crying, of feeling like you're not worthy of living, feeling you're not enough, even in relationships, even with your friends, with your significant other, if you feel in relationships you give too much, you have to give so much of yourself, you have to give your money, you have to drive to their place late at night, you have to always pick their call, you have to always beg them to love you, you have to do so much for love, there's a gap that you need to fill in yourself, and you need to do that for yourself. You know, you will never go back to your childhood so your parents or your guardian can do those things for you. You have to do them for yourself. And we said we are not here to blame anybody, because that person, whatever happened to you, and if maybe your guardian or your parent allowed things to happen to you or did things that affected you, that was not their intention. They did the best they could with the information they had. So what do? You still love them as your guardian, but you reparent yourself. You give yourself what they could not give you, so you can also so you don't have to pass that trauma to your children. Now let's talk about before we go to exercise. What you will need to do. Let's talk briefly about reparenting. I have my laptop, like I said, so that is where I am at. So, reparenting is your personal responsibility. Becoming your own mom, becoming, those things you wanted. I will talk about that briefly. But reparenting is going to take a lot of patience. It's not a quick fix. It's not those quick fixes you just do one off and that's it. You have to do these things every day. You have to love that baby, that small girl, the girl that was abused, the girl that was bullied, the girl that was not seen, the girl that was not loved. You have to do those things. You reparent her every day. Like, if it's not going to take days, it's not going to take weeks, it's not going to take months. And let me tell you, there will not be end. You find that when you start reparenting yourself, you want to do it more. But then you'd never find yourself stopping. You just find you just get different ways of loving yourself, different ways of being there for yourself. It becomes effortless. You start enjoying life. You start knowing you're worthy of living. You start understanding your opinion is important. You start knowing you're worthy of love, and you don't have to give your soul to the devil to be loved or to have a space in the society. You start owning your place as a human being. So, how to know? Let me talk about I've written some of my things down here. So like I've said, it's gonna take a lot of time, a lot of commitment, a lot of patience. It's gonna require you to show up every day. But for who? For yourself. There's nothing good. There's nothing that feels heavenly and fulfilling and satisfying as showing up for yourself. Yes. So it will allow you to heal. It will allow you to heal. It will allow you to forgive. When I started going for therapy, and when I learned in between, I didn't go for childhood trauma. I went for other things that I talk about here. Watch my videos that I talk about my healing journey and my therapy journey. So when I went in between, I realized I had childhood trauma. And at first, the first instinct was like to be mad at my caregivers when I was young. Why would they let me go through abandonment and bullying and such things? But then when I did my reparenting, when I started taking care of myself, I started to heal, and I actually forgave them. And I actually realized they also need to reparent themselves, because the trauma they went through is what they passed through over. Yeah. So the first thing you need to do is to acknowledge. You have to acknowledge. The first step to behavior change is understanding you need to change. Something is not right and you need to make it right. The first step is understanding you went through trauma. I went through this as a child. I went through this. It affected me. The reason I am so bitter is because I feel I was not loved as my child. My parents did not give me what I needed and everything I needed. Acknowledging why you need to reparent yourself. So that's number 2. Number 2 is asking yourself what that little girl wanted. Young Muthoni wanted to be hugged. She wanted to be told you're so smart. She wanted to be told you were such an important person in this world. You are amazing, Muthoni. She wanted affirmation. She wanted to be affirmed, and that is why I think it's my number 1 love language. It's what I needed as a child. So I wanted to be told I'm loved. I wanted somebody to be there for me. I wanted to feel warmth and support. I feel I didn't have that. And that is what I give myself. So number 2 is looking at what did she need. If she went through abuse, if she went through a situation where she felt maybe the guardian just abandoned them and people took advantage of them, what does that little girl want? She wants you to protect her. She wants you to tell her, Muthoni, I protect you. I see you. You're valuable. Your sexuality is special. You know those things. Yeah. Number 3 is assure yourself every day that you are beautiful. I've written for myself, so this is what I've written. Assuring myself every day that I'm beautiful, that I will protect the small girl in me, that she's safe, and that nobody is going to hurt her. That is the 3rd one. Number 1, acknowledging like your heart, like something happened to you in your childhood, like you're not enjoying life, you're not happy, you're angry, you feel those all kinds of emotions. And then number 2 is knowing what exactly she needs, giving her that. Number 3 is doing it every day. All the time when something goes wrong. Sometimes I'm so mad at things that, sometimes I can just be seated and then think how sometimes, how sometimes we have negative thoughts and then I start thinking negative things, I start getting angry. I can be able to catch myself and be like, Muthoni, it's okay. Calm down. It's okay. No one is doing that to you. No one is doing bad things to you. You're safe now. No one's gonna bully you. No one's gonna, like I tell myself, or even if they're gonna bully me, they're not gonna get to me. I am like, it's building a strong inner self. People, sometimes you cannot stop people from doing this. People will bully you, people will do a lot of things to you, but they will not really break you. They will not get to you. Yeah. So also, another thing, childhood trauma affected my relationships in a huge way. Because like I've said, as a child, your subconscious awareness is taught while you're growing up. That is how you're taught how to process emotions, how relationships look like, how love looks like. And that is why if you don't heal that child, you find if by growing up you knew for your parent or your guardian to love you, you had to become number 1 in school, you had to be very disciplined, you are not allowed to be a child, you literally had to be a small grown-up. You know what I mean? So you realize that even in because that is the first relationship you have with your guardian is how you know the relationship are supposed to be like. The relationship you have with your dad, if you don't heal it and if you went through trauma, you will find that you keep repeating that relationship because that's the only definition of a relationship that you know. When you find good guys, you just think they're boring. You think there is no that blood rush that comes with anxiety. You think, no, this can't be love. But when you heal yourself, when you find that calm love, now this is what I want. So it affected my relationships in a huge way, feeling like I have to do so much to receive love, giving myself so much, crying all over, being full of emotion, manipulating the other person, because that's what what you're used to growing up, what you went through, being manipulated, being blackmailed, and those things. So if you want also to have a good relationship, like I say, the relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship. And finally, I went for therapy. You can do this. And when you go for therapy, please go to a therapist who understands emotional things, who understands these things. There are therapists who don't understand it. And how to know that therapy is gonna help you work through whatever you want to work on. It's the first session. When you talk to them and they're giving you an opportunity to talk, they're actually listening to you. They're actually understanding where you're coming from. They're not there like an opposition, like to oppose you. They're going on a journey with you, like you're together going on that journey. When you have that connection with them, I think that's how that's how I knew. And that's how I do my things, even with my service providers, with everybody. Like when I have that connection and I feel they're not the opposite side, when I feel we can have a conversation, when I feel they're anchored towards the solution with me, they're not just there stagnant and I'm there wobble. Okay, I don't know what I'm talking about, but you guys get my point. So I went for therapy and I also did hypnosis. There's a hypnosis video. You have to do it. Everybody has to do that hypnosis video. If you've watched this episode, you have to watch that. Watch my episode about healing the inner child. I should peg it somewhere here. I'll try to do that when I upload this video. Watch it and look at the link. It's at the comment section, the first comment, na pia kwa description box. I've put it there. Click that video when you're quiet in your alone time and do that hypnosis video. The video takes you back to your childhood and helps you meet that young girl, meet that young child. It's amazing, you guys. So I really wanted to do this. So other things you can do is look at your childhood photos and cuddle yourself and tell yourself self-affirmations. You can also write your younger self a letter. Muthoni, I will love you. I will protect you. I will be there for you. You're worthy of the good things in life. Write yourself that letter. It sounds like right now I can say those things because I'm working towards. I've healed, you guys, but I still do these things every day. I am so there for myself. I love myself. I give myself the best, you guys. So write that letter and read it to yourself, because whatever you're saying, you're also listening. You're absorbing it. That's what we say. When you say something, you're listening. That's why we are very usually against telling yourself many things. I am so stupid. Don't tell yourself those things. You're also listening to them. So write yourself a letter. Create a safe space in your car, in your balcony, in your bedroom, in the washroom. A safe space, and read that letter to yourself and absorb it. So also go for therapy that I've spoken about. Thank you so much, guys. I did not know this video was going to be this long, but I'm so happy because when I was reading about it and internalizing, I felt a lot of emotions because it's so dear to me. It is so dear to me, you guys, because my therapist told me something. The inner child is the person who enjoys life. Not the tall Muthoni who has become tall and grown up. Is that baby. You know, that child who had ambitions, who started life. And then you left them somewhere and you just became tall and graduated with your master's. You have to go back and get that baby. Is the person who enjoys life. Thank you so much, guys. Please leave your feedback. Also, we have a new Instagram page for Muthoni's Mission. Muthoni's Mission on Instagram. It will be practically about what I talk here on my YouTube channel. I realized my other pages, people had followed me or have followed me also for different reasons, but this one I want you guys to just follow me for the emotional stuff, for the life coaching things and all that. So I can also be going live at times on Instagram with some of the things we talk about here. I love you guys. Thank you so much for your support, for your feedback, and see you around, guys. Share this video, subscribe, and also don't forget to like this video. Bye.